Here I'll be doing a presentation on Mexican immigrants in the United States for Spanish 2. Mexican American history began in 1846 when President Polk had dispatched troops into a disputed zone in Mexico, and Mexico's army at the time had ambushed the American soldiers, and the war began. And so after the war ended in 1848, there was an insurgence of Mexican immigrants beginning in 1910 when they were revolting against their government in the inner cities of Mexico. It continued when nearly 1 million Mexicans came to the United States through Mexico during the Revolution, where the total number of ethnic Mexicans living in the United States tripled from 1910 to 1920. And so the reason why there was a insurgence of people was because there was a Mexican Revolution from President Diaz at the time. And so the Immigration Act of 1924 was one of the first laws and acts to regulate immigration in the United States. There were so many Mexican immigrants coming to the United States that there was not a way for them to count how many. So therefore, the United States had enacted an Immigration Act. And so their history continues in the Great Depression. There was the only time when Mexican immigration dropped drastically because there was not much work for Mexicans in the United States. And what was going on at the time was that Mexicans would come to the United States in certain periods of time, and the United States would allow them to stay there. It continued and was made official when the Bracero program was created. It was a bilateral agreement between Mexico and the United States called the Bracero program, which allowed laborers to work seasonally. And it initially guaranteed minimum wage, transportation, housing, and health benefits. It also ironically had the effect of increasing illegal immigration. In 1965, the Immigration and Nationality Act was enacted because there was a lot of Mexican immigrants coming into the United States illegally through the Bracero program. So there was social pressure to create an act to limit that. And so the act was a system that determined the total number of immigrants who may be admitted each year based on immediate relatives. And so there was an unexpected, unauthorized aliens of about 1.4 million being from Mexico. And I do not believe that it is a good policy for the United States to separate children from parents when immigrant children are caught crossing the border in the act of coming to the United States, because the history of Mexicans in America is depicting a fight for economic freedom, as I just shown you in the previous slides of their history. And so the 3 laws that I have found that separates children from their parents is the Deferred Action for Parents of America. It was enacted in 2014. Well, that as well as the Deferred Action for Children of Americans as of 2012, those were programs that helped Mexican immigrants. But when Donald Trump had came into the office, he took those laws away. So that is when children were being separated from their parents, when Donald Trump had came into office and took these 2 away. And then he further made separating children from their parents acceptable by creating the Border Security and Immigration Enforcement Improvements in 2019. It is the second executive order that he had created, and it called for the construction of a wall along the United States southern border, which was estimated to be between $12 billion and $15 billion. And I also believe that Mexican immigrants should not be separated from their children, and that they should stay in the United States, considering the benefits that Mexican immigrants have created for the United States. For instance, job creation. Given the average immigrant-owned business hires at least 11 employees, these businesses would account for between 3.7 million and 5.2 million jobs in the formal economy. And there has also been a myth that Mexican immigrants do not pay taxes, and that is not true. Undocumented immigrants pay an average of $11.6 billion in state and local taxes a year. And they also improve diversity in the United States and its culture, because it gives the United States a new way of living and a new way of being able to provide for their family. That's all, folks. If you have any questions, comments, or concern, email me at haleylair@philander.edu. Thank you.